$40, and basically it does what I'm talking about. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and if I can find it. But I thought there was still another company who was selling it. How's spoofed class device? Here it is. This is automate spoofing or cloning Bluetooth device name and class. That's what I want. Let's see. It's this one here. Press allow. Where's the allow? Okay, right here. That's not who I wanted to go to. All right. That's a scammer site. All right. Well, during our lunch break, I'll locate it, and I'll locate I have the device, the HID device that actually spoofs a keyboard device, and we'll take a look at it. But now we got the BT scanner installed. Let's go ahead and take a look at that BT scanner. There it is. So here's our BT scanner. And it should begin to scan. Let's go ahead and usually it goes and starts scanning without doing anything. I'm not getting any results yet. Give it a second here. Now the scan is running already, so it's just really slow. You see it down below. It's starting doing a scan. It should give us the results that are very similar to what we got. There we go. Okay, it's starting to come up on the screen. Yeah, it found 4 devices. No, 3 devices so far. No, just 2. Those are just actually duplicates. Okay. Still scanning. So if you want to use something that's a little bit more human friendly, you don't want to remember your HCI tool commands. This is out there. So far, it's only found 2 devices. Let's see. Give it a minute or 2 to find the others. There's at least 3 of them out there. When we did the HCI tool, it found I think a Samsung Note. There it is. Just picked it up. Okay. And there should be 1 more. Notice that it's given us a different class address here for the Kindle, which is maybe why we weren't able to find it. We can go back to the Bluetooth website and see if we can't identify those classes. Well, I'm going to let this run and see what else it can find in the area. I've got a quarter to the hour. Let's go ahead and break now. I'm going to let this run while we're on break and see what else we can pick up. Um, I'll also get the HID device, the Bluetooth HID device that masquerades as a it looks like to somebody on the outside like it's a speaker or what have you, but really it's a keyboard. Okay, so basically it's going to give you control if you can pair. So you can put in whatever name you want. Say, okay, like this here is a speaker system, or this is Elsie's Kindle right here. So I can spoof that name, get the target to be able to pair with it. So it requires some social engineering. You're going to have to spoof a name. And once they pair with it, then you have control from your keyboard to enter commands on their system. All right. So let's go ahead and we'll break for 1 hour and we'll come back and do a little more Bluetooth, and then we'll go on to looking at ways that we can attack Android devices. See you then.
This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome back to the second half of day 2 of the mobile hacking course. While we're all at lunch, I let the scanner run. And oftentimes, if you just let it run for a while, and I was being impatient because I got the video going and students waiting for me. But here I let it run for an hour, and you see it ended up picking up one more device. The HCI tool would have done the same thing if I had given it enough time and run enough times. You see it picked up another device here. All right, so we got 4 devices within in range there. Um, and we largely have the information that we need to attack any of them. One of the things I wanted to show you before we go on to do anything more is this device right here. And these were available a few years ago. And basically, you can see this is a Bluetooth HID dongle, right? So it basically masquerades as a human interface device, okay? And you can go ahead and basically spoof it as a speaker or a headset or what have you. And then the target, if they will allow the pairing between this device, okay, then you have a keyboard on their phone, their laptop, whatever the Bluetooth enabled device is. Obviously, if you connect it to speakers, it's not going to do you any good. But anything that's going to take a keyboard, a keystroke, and then you can go ahead and uh, enter whatever keystrokes you want into their device. Now, this is I can't find it anymore. I think I bought mine about 4 or 5 years ago. I have seen it available on eBay, and I have seen it available other places. There are others out there as well. Of course, you can build one if you have the skills. You can build one yourself. Basically, you just have to change the firmware so that the firmware shows it as a human interface device. Okay, um, and then you can use it to try to pair with devices, Bluetooth devices, and take control that way. All right, and of course, you don't need, if you don't get the pairing, you can try to attack the pin, but that's a really delicate attack. Okay, you need to, try many times. There's only a 6-digit, so it's not that many numbers, but still, it's probably not a fruitful approach. All right. A few years ago, we did have an attack called the Blue Born attack. What the Blue Born attack did is it was able to extract information from the memory of the device, the Bluetooth device, and of those information in memory is likely to be the password, okay, or PIN that was entered into that device. All right, so let's go ahead and try doing that. We've got that exploit was 2017, and of course, if you're doing a pen test for any organization that where includes mobile devices, you want to test to see whether these devices are susceptible to the Blueborn attack. All right, so that's what we're going to do next. The only thing we really need for the Blueborn attack is the this address, this MAC address of the Bluetooth device. So that's what we're going to be doing next. But to do so, we've got to go ahead and add a few things to our setup here. Let's go ahead and open another terminal. And we're gonna, we've got that 20, this is a 2-year-old attack, right? And so we've got this Kindle right here, that's 2017, which is when this attack was viable. Most Bluetooth devices have been patched since then, but we'll test to see whether this 2017 device has been patched. Okay, it may not have been. All right, so what we got to do is we got to go ahead and add a few library files. So let's go apt install Bluetooth. All right, probably already have that, but in case you don't, let's go ahead and then we got the Bluetooth dev library. Invalid. Oh, install is spelled wrong. That'll do it every time. Okay. So that's the first thing we need. Let that go ahead and install. If you're new to Kali, you're accustomed to having all your tools loaded in there, but there's a lot of more obscure attacks where the tools are not in Kali. Here's a good example of one where you actually have to go ahead and put the libraries in and the tools. All right, and then you got to go from the Python library. You have to go pip install PyBlueZ. Don't have pip installed on this. Let's go ahead and get that apt install pip. Is it pip 2? Hang on a sec. I've forgotten how to install pip. It's going to be Python. I usually have pip installed. Get pip py. Huh. Let's just use curl to get it. HTTPS. Bootstrap. Get pip UI -o and get pip py. Okay, there we go. Got it. Okay, then Python get pip py, run that. So it's kind of a multi-step process. Okay, got that. So now that we have pip, now we can go ahead and get pip install PyBlueZ. Is it Z? Yeah. There we go. Okay. So we're getting most of what we need to do the Blueborn attack. And then we got to go pip install pawn tools. So we're getting all the prerequisites for this attack. And we're going to then try the Blueborn attack on against that Kindle device. Okay, then the final step is that we've got to go get a Python script, okay, that attacks that unpatched Bluetooth device. And we get that at git clone, it's GitHub repository, and github.com. It's OJASOOKERT, and then it's the name of the vulnerability, CVE 2017. This was like April, I think, of 2017. 0785. All right. All right, so now we should have a directory with the name of that exploit CVE 2017, and we see it right there. All right. So we got to go ahead and move into that directory, CVE. All right. And next, we got to go ahead and give ourselves, well, let's go ahead and take a look at what's in there. Yeah, you can see there's just the Python script and a README file. Before we can execute the script, of course, we got to give ourselves permissions to run it. Okay, so change mod 755 CVE. Okay, now if we go back and look, we'll see that it's in green and we have execute permission on it. All right, now we got to go back to our here and pick up the MAC address, okay, of that Kindle device. Right? You can see the scanner is still running. It may find more while we're letting it run. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to use the Blueborn exploit against it. So we're going to go Python and then CVE, okay, the script. And then we have to go target is equal to, and then the MAC address. And then it goes after it. Let's see what we get. Let's see if we can get the contents of memory on that device. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to go in through the Bluetooth device to access memory on the device. It's running, it's running. And if it can, it'll display the contents in hex and in ASCII on our screen. The script by default just goes and gets the first 30 bytes of memory. You can go ahead and enter the script and change it to any number of bytes you want. Let's be patient with this and let it run and see if we can't extract the first 30 bytes of RAM. Okay, so Carlos is just to recap. Okay, what extra install did we do? All right, let me see if I can just do a recap. We'll let this run. Okay, maybe I'll open up another terminal and do it. How's that? Okay. All right. So what we did, I'm going to go through each one of the commands. Okay. So first command was apt. All right. Install Bluetooth. All right. And then the library, the Bluetooth library. So Bluetooth lib, Bluetooth -dev. All right. That's the first one we did. All right, and so that just goes into the repository and pulls out those library files. Then, if you don't have pip already installed on your system, you're going to have to install pip, all right? And so what we did is we used the curl command to go ahead and install it, and I'll go ahead and type it all out here. We still got the Bluetooth is still trying to do its job and pulling out that RAM. So while that's doing its work, we'll go through each one of the commands. So we can use curl HTTPS, right? And then it's boot strap pypa.io and get pip. That's what we want. Get pip py -o get pip py. Okay, so that goes ahead and gets pip for us. Okay, then we got to go ahead and extract the pip. Okay, run that script. That's going to be Python get pip py. Okay, now we've got pip. Okay, so once we have pip, then we can get everything out of the Python library that we need. And what we need is going to be from pip install py blue z. Okay, and then you need, it should be install, by the way, install, right? Install pip install, and then pawn tools, right? These both come out of the pip library. And then lastly, right, we need to go and get the Python script, okay, that comes from the folks who found this vulnerability, wrote a script to exploit it, okay, and that's going to be found at git clone, okay, at GitHub, of course, HTTPS. And boy, you'll be a hero when you show them that their Bluetooth devices are vulnerable to this attack. There are devices still out there that are not patched, obviously. We'll find out if this one that's near me is patched. Let me make sure I have that all spelled for you correctly. OJASOOKERT. Yep, I got it spelled right. I think they're Dutch researchers. CVE 2017-0785. All right. Did you catch all that, Carlos? And then once you've got that, okay, one E, not two E's. Let's see. Oh, yeah, you're right. My bad. And there's also one dash in there. Okay, so let me fix it for you. Okay, so you can get it on the video. Okay, let's go. And there's only one E. I think I said one E, but I typed two. All right. So that's the command. Let me expand it across the screen so you can get it straight. All right, there it is. And it requires all of those libraries that we had already downloaded. So it won't work without those libraries. Then we went ahead and changed directory into that particular CVE directory, CVE 2017-0785. We gave ourselves, no, it has nothing to do with the multi-blue dongle, by the way. Okay, so Carlos says, this is only with the multi-blue dongle? No, it has nothing to do with that at all. This is a different attack entirely. The multi-blue dongle is kind of a social engineering attack, right? And so what you're trying to do with the multi-blue dongle is that you're trying to trick the user into pairing with it. So you can put whatever name you want into it. So in your scan, so for instance, right, in in my scan, let's go pull up my scan, right? Not this one, the other one. There we go. So here I've got, say, this is a speaker system, right? The Edifier S2000. So I've scanned and I know that this person connects to these speakers, right? And so what I do is I can put that name into my HID device, and then they will pair with it. Okay, I got what it'll do is it'll give them a message. It'll still try, even though they may have paired with it already. All right, it'll give them a message asking if they want to pair. Most people go, oh, yeah, okay, I got to pair again, and they'll pair with it, and then you'll have a keyboard control over their system. Right, your keyboard becomes their keyboard. Right, so that's one attack. It's kind of a social engineering attack. It requires some social engineering, right? But not that much. Most people, they'll see, oh, there's my Edifier speakers, okay, and they'll go ahead and click on it, and then you'll have keyboard control over their system. All right, then that's one attack. Okay, yes, it does rely upon them pairing manually. So that's the trick, is to get them to pair with it. But you can do that to most people, because all you're going to do is they're going to see, when you go to your phone, right, to pair, right, all you do is see a name. You don't see a MAC address or any other information. You go, oh yeah, that's my speakers, right? And so they're going to go and try to pair with their speakers or their pair with their headset, and the message is gonna pop up on their screen, to pair, and they're gonna agree to pair. Okay. Of course, it limits it to physical proximity, as Storm says here. And all Bluetooth attacks are limited to physical proximity, right? Okay. You can't attack something that isn't. You can't attack somebody on the other side of the globe. Okay. So your limitation is that within the bounds of what Bluetooth extends to. And there's, if it's a very weak device, that's going to be 10 meters. If it's a very strong device, it can be 100 meters. If you have an antenna, you can take it out even farther, okay, and pick up a lot more. Yeah, and Carlos says, could use my drone. Yeah, you could do that. I mean, that's a strategy I hadn't thought of, Carlos, right? Is to go ahead and put the device on your drone, right, and get physical proximity that way. Although most people will hear the drone, that might be not the most stealthy way, but you could hover over somebody. Okay, let's see, a couple of questions popping up here. Storm says, Bluetooth limiting the physical proximity, but there are other vectors than Bluetooth. Oh, there's hundreds of vectors, Storm. Okay, right? We're only looking at one. Okay, there's hundreds of vectors, right? So we've already looked at a few that are not limited at all. Well, the Stingray is limited to an area. SS7, which we're going to look at next, is global, right? And so, yeah, this one is, that's what I was saying when we started this class, is that, talking about mobile hacking is like talking about computer hacking. It's huge, okay? There's thousands of potential vectors here. You talk about computer hacking, there's so many different ways to go about it. And the same thing applies to mobile. All right, I see a couple comments here. It says, Carlos says, so this CV code works with any BT dongle? Yes. Basically, what you're doing is you're attacking a vulnerability in the Bluetooth protocol, not the dongle, okay? In the Bluetooth protocol. So you're sending specially crafted packets that will extract what's in RAM on the Bluetooth device, because the Bluetooth protocol has access to RAM. So you are going through the Bluetooth device, okay, to get its access to RAM. And mine is still working over here. Okay, I don't think it's gotten anything yet. Let's go back and see. It usually takes a while, okay? So, now let's see, I got a couple more comments. Carlos says, cool, I'm not sure I've gotten the RAM wireless, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, there's very few ways to extract RAM from a device, even when we're talking about, hacking computers. There's very few ways, okay? By the way, Carlos, put your comments out for everybody to see. That way I don't have to read them to everybody, okay? You're sending your messages privately to me and other people can't see them. All right. Yeah, I think you got it locked on sending it only to me. There you go. Okay. So we're gonna let this thing run. Okay. And once again, as Storm said, this is limited to proximity to the user. Okay. Let's see. All right. Yeah. Orange versus blue. Yeah. We're gonna let this run and see if it can extract the memory from this device that's in range. I think it's actually, it's a couple doors down from me. Okay, so see if we can, and once we have the RAM, then we can, we can parse the RAM to look for sensitive information like password. Now, when you enter a password into a device, it's stored in RAM. Just like if you've used Mimikatz, so thinking about, ways of getting access to RAM on a regular computer, you are probably familiar with Mimikatz, and Mimikatz will extract RAM from any computer, right? So it'll go in, if you can get Mimikatz to run on a system, it'll be able to extract the RAM out of that system, and you can have everything that's in RAM, okay? That would be all the processes that are running in it, all the passwords that are in it, what have you. So this is similar to Mimikatz, okay? And you can see I got a couple tutorials on Mimikatz on Hackers Arise. It's spelled M-I-M-I-K-A-T-Z, okay? And Mimikatz is built into Metasploit now, so you can use it. It's one of those things that you can use if you have physical access or if you've remotely taken control of the system, all right? You can use Mimikatz. So I'm gonna let this baby run and you'll see if anything from memory pops up, okay? In the meantime, let's talk about SS7. SS7 is been used extensively of late, basically for two-factor authentication, as I was referring to earlier, all right? And so, a lot of banks and other institutions, Facebook, Twitter, what have you, all authenticate you by two-factor authentication. And usually the second factor is going to be a SMS message to your phone. So remember that when you go and create an account, okay, and it'll ask you to verify, and usually the verification is by sending it to a phone number, right, an SMS message, and then you have to enter the SMS message in. Well, with SS7, you can create a fake phone number, okay, or use somebody else's phone number, and then intercept, okay, the SMS message and get the authentication credentials that way. So that's the way it's being used within the hacking world, okay, is by getting this, it's defeating two-factor authentication, all right? let's go ahead and do that. Just let our Blueborn exploit run, and we'll come back to it in a little bit. Here's SS7. We talked about this in the beginning about cellular. We were talking about cellular attacks. All right. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the basics of what SS7 attack is, and then I'm going to show you the tools that you need, okay, to go ahead and do it. Obviously, we're not going to do it in class, right? Because basically it's illegal. So, but I'm going to show you how to do it, okay? So SS7. Let's back up a little bit. It's an international telecommunication standard that defines how network elements exchange information over the digital signaling network. SS7 consists of a set of reserved or dedicated channels, okay? They're known as signaling links. And these signaling links are the way that Storm says, and who is the SS7 police? Well, it's the same police who police everything in hacking. So, but the question is would they detect you? Okay, would they actually be able to notice that you have hacked the SS7 system? The truth of the matter is that people have been using this for years now, and I don't know of anybody who's been caught. Okay, so that's I'm not advocating doing it. I'm just saying that it's pretty hard to detect, right? Now, there may be new measures that they've taken in recent years, but as far as I know, they still haven't done anything to close this hole. So this is the signaling between carriers, okay? And they purposely didn't put any authentication in it so that the different carriers could easily transfer information across to different, so that Verizon can talk to AT&T and AT&T can talk to Deutsche Telekom, and all of those can talk to the landline system, so they all have to talk together. And that they use SS7 to do it. The SSPs originate or terminate a call and communicate on the SS7 network with SCPs to determine how to route a call or set up or manage some special feature. The traffic on the SS7 network is routed by packet switches called STPs. SCPs and STPs are usually mated so the service can continue if one network point fails. SS7 uses out-of-band signaling, which means that signaling, or the control of the information, travels over a separate, dedicated 56 or 64 kilobytes per second channel rather than with the same channel as a telephone call. Historically, the signaling for a telephone call has used the same voice circuit that the telephone call traveled on. This is called in-band signaling, so it's an out-of-band signaling. Using SS7, telephone calls can be set up more efficiently, and special services such as forwarding and wireless roaming service are easy to add and manage. SS7 is used for these and other services, such as setting up and managing a connection for a call, tearing down the connection when the call is complete, billing, managing call forwarding, calling party name, number display, three-way calling, and other intelligent network services, toll-free 800, 900 calls, wireless as well as wireline call service, including mobile telephone subscriber authentication, personal communication service, and roaming. SS7 messages contain such information as, okay, didn't ever finish that one. SS7 network devices exchange data from different carriers. Over 800 global telecoms use SS7, so basically everybody uses SS7. There's no established security. All right, and here's the SS7 attack. Okay, we're going to talk about how this takes place. If you're making a call from one phone from carrier A to another phone on carrier B, that message is transmitted as seen below. Okay, so here we are over here, goes to the towers, goes to the BSC, the RNC, goes to MSC, VLR, And then SS7 is used to exchange on even on the core network, okay? And then goes to the other network, and eventually finds its way to the other phone. Storm says, is there a way to determine target carrier? You're actually not, you're not targeting a carrier, you're targeting a phone number, okay? So does that answer your question? I'm not sure. Try me again on that carrier of the target. We don't need the carrier of the target, okay? We need the phone number though. All right, so that's even more specific. We don't need to know who their carrier is. That's not really. Notice here that SS7 is used even on the same carrier, right? That's why this is a good diagram, okay? And this diagram actually comes from the folks who developed this attack, okay? So this SS7 is used even internally, but it was primarily developed to interconnect different carriers, all right? If a hacker can get access to the SS7 network, okay, they can eavesdrop on phone calls, and this is primarily what it's being used for right now. Read SMS messages, because basically all you need is momentary access, okay, to the SS7 system to get the SMS message. If you're going to eavesdrop, you're going to have to be in there for a while. You can track location, get two-factor authentication, okay, and this is the primary purpose that people are using it for right now, okay, is to get that two-factor authentication. SS7 is the weak point in the whole two-factor authentication scheme, okay, when people are using text messages. And I have several banking accounts, they all use, okay, they all send me text messages. Sometimes when I'm out of town, okay, I'll get my email carrier will, not Proton Mail, but others will go ahead and send me a text message to authenticate myself. So they see all of a sudden a different IP address comes in, right? So if you've traveled, and I believe Gmail will do it, okay? I'm pretty sure I got several accounts, right? But if you're traveling and you're on a different location and you try to access your Gmail account, sometimes their system is designed, it says, okay, this is not a match. It's not even close to the IP address or the machine. Okay, that's the other thing. So when you try to come in and access the system from a different machine, you've probably seen this, right? You go use a different machine, whether it be a different computer or a different device, and try to access email. It oftentimes will make you authenticate, okay, with a SMS message. Anybody else besides me seen this? Please give me some kind of feedback on this. This is typical. Okay, nobody else has seen it but me, huh? Maybe because I travel a lot. Okay. They're always going ahead and sending me a text message. Then I got to go ahead and take that number that comes in the text message and enter it into the account to authenticate myself. Okay, so if I can get, for instance, what's happening, we see all these data dumps, right? Yes, okay. Vadim confirms what I'm saying. Logging in from an unknown device, I get it all the time, he says. Yeah, and Carlos says as well, right? So if, say I have somebody's username and their password, okay, and so I can get their passwords from the data dumps, okay, on the dark web, right? There's billions of passwords there, right? And I can find their password there. And the services recognize this, and that's why if they see a login from a device or from a location that's different than was normal, they will make you authenticate with an SMS message. Okay, fine, right? if I can get into the SS7 system, I can intercept that SMS and then provide them with the two-factor authentication, right? All right, that's what this is. That's how this is being used primarily in 2019, right? You know, banking accounts, my bank account, when I travel, yeah, 2FA. When I travel and I try to log into my bank won't let me in, okay? And then they'll send me a text message saying, okay, enter this text message, this second factor, and we'll let you in then. Even though I get in all the time with just my username and password, as soon as I'm out of town, they want a second factor. And that's what they're doing. They're sending me a text message, an SMS message, which can be intercepted. All right. So let's go ahead and I'll show you what we can do in terms of SS7. Before I do that though, okay, one of the requirements, okay, to access the SS7 system, right, is you need a software radio, okay, SDR, okay. And here's one that's often used. That's what the company I was thinking of is Hacker RF one. These are what you can buy these right off Amazon, right? What these are is software-defined radios, and this one is very popular and it's one of the easiest to use. All right, you can buy really cheap ones like this one right here. Okay, yeah, it's a really big area, Carlos, and I agree with you. So I'm working with a client right now on software-defined radio, and you have to set up a software-defined radio to be able to access. So what you're doing is essentially you're creating a software-defined cell phone, okay? So that you're communicating over the cell phone system. That's what you're doing. So the first step, of course, is to go ahead and set up yourself a software-defined radio, okay? And this client that I'm working with has got some pretty unique needs using software-defined radio. And like I said, I'm probably going to put together a class here. Maybe we'll have one by next year on software-defined radio. All right. I hate to put together classes that require people buy expensive equipment, but this is one of those cases where we're probably going to have to do it. All right. Okay. So that's the first step, is set up a software-defined radio. It's pretty simple to do, not a big deal. But once you've set it up, now you can use your computer, okay, to be able to send out specially crafted messages through the radio frequencies. All right. So what you need then, once you've got this, we'll go back and check on our Blueborn exploit. It's still trying. Let's go open up another terminal. Let's minimize these. All right. And what we need to do is we've got to go and get a little bit of software. All right. And I got to remember where it is. It's on Git clone. Give me a second here. It's called SigPlot. Let me see if I can find it on GitHub. SignalSploit. Here it is. I found it. Okay. So to get it, we're going to have to go to git clone, right? And it's going to be HTTPS and github.com. SigPloit, kind of like Metasploit, but SigPloit, and then SigPloit. It's asking me for a username. Hmm. One second. I haven't used my name in GitHub for a long time. I don't know if I remember what it is. Wondering why it's asking me now. Okay, I think it might just be under occupies the web. Let's see. Nope, invalid username and password. Let's try again. I may have just spelled it wrong. Let's try. All right. I did. Okay, that's why it's giving me problems. I just spelled it wrong. Tells me there's already a directory called SigPoint right there. Let's see if there's anything in there. Did it download it? I spelled it wrong. Oh, it's there. Okay. It gave me a message. It gave me a strange message that asked me for username and password, but it was already there. Maybe I'd already downloaded it into this machine. Go ahead and try it. You guys try it and let me know if it works for you. Okay, because I had already had it. My guess is I already had it installed on the system. But once you have that, okay, give me some feedback. All right. No feedback. All right. So what we got to do then is we're going to go ahead and install the requirements. Okay. Using pip install. Notice there's a requirement txt right here. Now this is a new install because there's no execution on it. So this is a brand new install. It's funny. It just gave me a message, an error message, but it still installed it. So we're going to go install -r the requirements .txt. Okay, Carlos says SigPod is for SDR. Yes, it is for software-defined radio and SS7. Who are they connecting again? Oh, how are they connecting? Well, we're going to get to that. Okay, so what we'd have to do is we've got to, first of all, we've got to connect our software-defined radio. Okay, we got to tune it to the same frequency as the cell system is using. That's the key here. Okay. Go ahead and do the requirements. And that's where this becomes a kind of this is a high level hack. Okay. This is what we're seeing, the major cybercrime gangs doing. All right. This isn't for the script kiddie. Okay, so now we've got all the requirements fulfilled. We did get some error messages. Okay. Let's see if it'll still work. All right. So then we got to go ahead and give ourselves a permissions on it. All right, so sig point py. How would I just spell it wrong? Let's see. It's lowercase. That's it. Okay. Change mod sig point py. And I got a 755 or some odd number, right? It has to be an odd number to give. It can be 555, it can be 111, it can be 777. As long as it's an odd number, it's going to give you permission to execute it. All right. Then it's simply Python. Okay. Now, once again, it requires that. Okay. Carlos is saying, what? README. What is the lettering? Those are error messages, it's telling me right here. All right. So, but I think it'll run even though it's running these error messages. Okay. So we go, once again, we got to have the software-defined radio. Okay. And the software-defined radio has to be connected to the cellular network. Okay. Assuming we already have that, then this tool allows you to send messages to get into the SS7 network. All right, so let's go ahead and just go SigPoint. It has other tools as well in it, not just the SS7 tool. Okay, so there's our tools. Signaling exploitation framework. Okay, and here's the 2G and 3G voice and SMS attacks. Here's the 3G and 4G data attacks, the 4G data attacks, and the 4G IMS attacks. Yeah, everybody's using the same structure, right? No matter what tool you get nowadays, everybody's kind of like, let's build it to look just like Metasploit, right? So the things that you need to do, okay, most importantly is you're going to have to set the phone number, okay, and your own IP address, which make sure that so is this a set command similar to we do with Metasploit, set local, okay. Set local, let's see, the target, there's several parameters we have to set, but set the target MSI ISDN, and that's whatever phone number, ISDN. That's going to be a phone number we're targeting, all right? Whatever number that is. So let's use that classic 555 123 4567. Okay. All right. Didn't like that. Let's go. Let's try. Oh, I didn't choose. I got to choose the SS7 attack first. That's what's okay. There we go. All right. So I chose 0 as the SS7 attack, and then okay, I have these choices: location tracking, call and SMS interception, fraud and info gathering. Okay. So if I want to intercept the SMS, I go 1. All right. And then here's my update the location. And it didn't give me anything because I didn't put in, I got to put in the client PC, the server PC, the port, and the phone number. All right, so I would go set the MSI, okay, ISDN, and then let's go and put in 800-555-5555. All right, okay, and help. All right, there we go. So let's show options. Okay, there's what we need to enter to run this. Okay, the phone number is going to be, where do we get it? To target IMSI. You see it's null right here. All right, so let's go set target. I was probably just spelling it wrong earlier. IMSI, and then go 888-555-1234. There we go. And then go show options. And you see now I'm targeting that phone number. I'm going to need a lot more information though to be able to actually execute this, okay? But you get the idea that this is a tool that once I got to do some reconnaissance on the system, okay, to be able to gather all the information I need. But here you have a tool. Once you set up your software-defined radio, okay, then you have a tool that's going to enable you to be able to intercept messages on using the hole that the SS7 protocol is, okay? There's a huge hole that is sitting out there that people are using over and over again to intercept SMS messages primarily. You're not seeing it used much for anything else, mostly for attacking the text messages for two-factor authentication. All right, then let's open up another terminal. All right, and let's go ahead and that's a pretty sophisticated attack. All right, it's not if you're going to execute it, you're going to have to spend some days and weeks doing one. Not days to set up your software-defined radio. You can set that up in a few hours, but then you're going to have to do reconnaissance on the system, okay, to be able to get all the parameters that you need, okay. You're going to need to know the phone number of the SMS message you're trying to intercept from, right? And then you can go ahead and do that. So how do you do recon to get the server IP? Well, that's a really good question, all right? And generally, what we're going to do is that we're going to have to figure out what the carrier's server IP is. And let me think how we can get that. Okay, it might be, it's a carrier. I'm trying to remember how we can get that. Give me a second here. I don't remember off the top of my head here, but I'll get back to you on that, Carlos, because that's a key bit of information that we're going to need to be able to do this attack. I'm guessing it's protected too, but I also think that there's ways of running reconnaissance on the carrier, that it's kind of like, that when you run, say, traceroute, right? You run traceroute, it shows you every IP between. So if I run traceroute from my phone, right? So if I go ahead and run traceroute from my phone to another IP address, it'll show me every IP address in between. So like this, trace route. In Linux, it's trace route, is it? There we go. Yeah, and if you go ahead and give it an IP address, so let's go ahead and go trace root, so 75, 75, 75, 75. So it'll show me every hop, okay? I'll get every IP address between here and that destination. And so that's the way I would do it from my phone, okay? So it has to show you, you have to put a terminal in your phone and then try to trace route, okay? Yes, but there's many of them out there. If you go into the Apple Store, or if you go into Google Play, you'll find a number of terminals. Yeah, you have one, good. And then just go ahead and go trace route, okay, to a IP address, and it'll show you every hop along the way, all right? So it's a good question. Then let's go and look at MSF console. Once again, if we're doing a pen test on a organization, and we're tasked with being able to determine the security of their mobile devices, this is a good place to start. All right. This is Metasploit 5. You've probably all seen this already. Right? The beauty of Metasploit 5 is the ease with which it works and the fact that it puts all of the exploits all into one standard framework. Okay. Now, before we go ahead, let's go and look at exploit DB. Okay. And let's see if there's any new exploits that are there for Android. Let's go Android. Yeah, latest one we have is from 7.15. It's a video player. Okay, it's a DOS attack. Most of the new attacks against Android have all been DOS attacks. Okay, here's the Blueborn right here, the one that we were just using. I had the month wrong. It came out in September of, and actually, yeah. So came out in August. There's two versions of it. Right? So there isn't anything new. I was thinking if there was something new, we'd go ahead and add it to our Metasploit framework, but we don't have anything brand new. So let's go ahead and look for exploits that we can use against our Android system. Let's go search, right? And type exploit, and let's go platform, Android. And it looks like there's 9 of them, right? Let's see, the most recent, this one right here. Okay, let's take a look at this one right here. I think I made reference to this one yesterday. All right. And let's go use. And this one is actually connects to a backdoor on Chinese-made Android devices. There's a big company in China called Allwinner. That's what this is referencing right here. And when the developers are working on a new Android, they have what's called an ADP, okay, a developer's port where they can connect to it. That unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, they left in this port on the devices. So they were manufactured with the port still open, all right? And I have one, okay, that it has the port open on it, okay? This module attempts to exploit a debug, that's what the ADB is, okay? Backdoor privilege escalation in Allwinner SoC-based devices, the vulnerable Allwinner SoC chips, okay, which rely on kernel 3.4, all OS images available from Orange Pies, all from, these are all the companies, these are all Chinese companies. Friendly Arms, NanoPi, Sino-VoIP, okay, maybe possible against Dragon and Allwinner Android tablets. All right, let me go grab my Allwinner Android tablet, okay, and let's give it a shot. Okay, give me 1 second here. Okay. Hexing Buddha says, so made by Acer, not my favorite manufacturer. No, I don't think these are made by Acer. These are all Chinese. Acer is made out of Taiwan. Okay. These are all made in mainland China. All right. And so they're slightly different. They're different Chinese. I charged up my old, and it's old, it's about, I haven't used it in years, my all-winter tablet, and it hasn't been used in years, and it's not booting up. So maybe overnight I can get it fixed. I think the battery might be dead on it because I haven't used it in years. So we may not be able to do that attack. I got another even older tablet here, but it's I don't know that I don't think it's an all winner, so I think it's an all loser. Let's see if it'll work against this one. This is even older. But let's take a look at what we need to do this attack. But just, here's the all winner 3.4 legacy kernel local privilege escalation. Okay. On Android Linux, it's an ARM. It gives you privilege access, right? Rank is excellent. It was disclosed on 2016, so it's about 3 years old, right? 3.5 years old. My tablet's even older than that. That's why the battery probably doesn't work on anymore. All right. And let's go and do let's do an Nmap scan. Let's see what machines are on this network. I've got another tablet here. It's an Android tablet. It's even older. This one might be like 8 or 10 years old. So let's go ahead and see if we can find it on the network. Let's go -ST and 192.168.00/24. And let's see if we can locate it. So you're going to see all the devices on my network. There should be a few phones, 3 or 4 computers, maybe a few other devices on here. So it's scanning all 255 IP addresses. And it should come back shortly. Also, I want to point out that if you're doing a taxing, I have one at home, that I'm doing tonight. Okay, good. You have an all winner at home? Okay. I do too, but it's, I bought it years ago and I haven't used it in years. And I put it on the charger last night just for this class. And well, once again, you're saying it's a Samsung, okay? It may not be an all winner. It has to be an all winner. It has to be made in China, okay? And those are the only ones this works against. If it's made in Korea or if it's made in Taiwan, yeah, it has to be one of these manufacturers that are listed here. It was a mistake made by Android in China. Okay, so the developers, we talked about earlier that there's great fragmentation of the Android market, right? So when they're making Android for the Chinese market, it's different than Android for the US market, right? It's and each manufacturer has their own tailored Android, and each carrier, okay, has their own tailored. So this is a mistake that was made within the Chinese market for these manufacturers. Okay, and in all honesty, I bought one directly from China. Right, it's an all winner. It worked great when it arrived. Everything was in Chinese. It was easy enough to switch it over to English, and and as you might expect, it was also very inexpensive, much more, probably half of what it costs in the US. But like I said, I haven't used it in years because it's probably 5 years old. So the scan's taking a while. Yeah, mistaken to China does sound kind of shady. You know, they are notorious, but you know, generally we always kind of look at um, what's going on in a foreign market and go, that sounds shady. But do you know how many times this has happened in the American market? Okay, these mistake backdoors have been left in. It's happened many times in the U.S. Were those mistakes? Okay, probably not. Okay. Just look at releases from Microsoft, many bugs all the time. Well, you know that Sony and a number of other companies have left backdoors into their software, right? And once again, if NSA comes to you and says, we need you to put a back door, yeah, I call it maintenance ports. We need you to leave a maintenance port into your system, right? How many companies are going to say no, right? How many companies, especially if you are doing any Defense Department work, like almost everybody is, right? Everybody in the IT industry gets a little bit of the pork from the defense industry. If they come to you and say, we'd like you to put a maintenance port in, that we need you to do this, do you think you're going to get your contract renewed if you don't leave that port in? Well, okay. This is going to take a little while. And so rather than just stare at a blank screen, we're going to move on. Okay. And we're going to open up another terminal. All right, I'm going to go ahead and minimize these. And what I'm going to do next is to show you how you can go ahead and create, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a backdoor that we can put into an Android machine. Okay, this once again is going to require some social engineering. All right, and as you know, there's a tool called MSF Venom, right? And MSF Venom basically just lets us go ahead and create payloads that if we can get them on a system, then they're going to go ahead and give us a backdoor to that system. So, MSF Venom, it's a pretty simple tool, really. Okay. So it comes down to choosing a payload, right? In this case, we want to have an Android payload, okay? And just a few other items that we're going to need to be able to create a payload. Now, this would require that we somehow get the target, okay, to be able to install, or if we have physical access to the system, to be able to install it on their system, All right, so give me a second here, and we'll go ahead and do this. Now, the other thing that this allows us to do is that we've used MSF Venom to be able to embed backdoors or payloads inside of other devices, right? It's going to allow us to do the same here. So here's what we need to do. So say we've gone ahead and created an APK. Okay, we've gone ahead and created ourselves a nice little Android app. Right? Let's go ahead. We're not going to do that in class. We're going to create something that is called Android app, right? Just for demonstration purposes. So let's go and go touch. Now let's go this way. Go cat Android app APK. Right? And then this is an Android APK file that we will use to disguise our backdoor. Okay, Control D. All right, and we should have a file there, Android APK 71 bytes. All right. Of course, you want to create a real Android app, right? Okay. And so we're just going to use this for demonstration purposes. So we could embed that into a backdoor, embed a backdoor into the app by going MSF Venom, right? And dash P, and then the payload. Now, of course, the payload is going to have to be an Android payload, Android interpreter, reverse TCP, all right? And then we need to tell it our IP address, okay? So it knows where to call back to, all right? So we can go L host is equal to 192, whatever my IP address is, okay, 168.1.103, and then what port we want it to call back on, okay? Let's call it 333, okay? And R, okay, is the type, and then we're gonna embed it inside of an app called Android. The name of that file, or the APK we created, we called it Android app APK. All right. So that's basically what it requires. You can take somebody else's app, okay, go get another app, all right, and or you can create one yourself, and then this puts a backdoor into that app, right, that then will connect back to you, and you can take control of that system. So the command is pretty simple. It's like a typical MSF Venom command, right? So it's going to be MSF Venom and then the payload, okay? And in this case, we've chosen one of the Android payloads. Before I go and execute this, let's take a look at the choice of payloads that we have. Let's go. This thing is still scanning. My goodness. I'm going to stop it. I need this terminal right now. Go search, okay, type, payload, and then platform, Android. Okay, so those are the 8 payloads we have a choice of, right? Just payload, Android, reverse HTTP, okay? Payload, Android, interpreter, reverse HTTPS. Now this one might be, notice that these two here, okay, might be a little bit more stealthy. So this one here is using the HTTP, so it'll connect back looking just like HTTP traffic, all right? And this one will look like HTTPS traffic, all right? This one will, here's this reverse TCP. So it's just gonna use standard TCP. These are a little stealthier and less likely to get blocked by a firewall, right? And then we got a few others down here as well, right? Here's a simple shell on reverse TCP. So these are just simple shells here. If you can get the interpreter on it, that's going to be superior. Okay, so let's go ahead and change our got too many terminals open here. Let's go ahead and change it to say HTTPS, okay, payload. All right, so we'll go MSF Venom, okay, -P Android. Okay, and we can go ahead and choose from that list over there. So let's go interpreter, reverse. Reverse simply means that it's once it gets on the system, it's going to call back to us. We don't call to it; it calls back to us. This is one of the advantages of that type of payload is that we don't necessarily need to know the IP address of the system that it's going to go to, right? If we have to call a payload, then we need to know who to call. In this case, we're putting a payload on that's going to call us, okay? And let's go HTTPS, right? It's going to look like HTTPS traffic. It's going to tell it to call back to us at whatever the IP address is, okay? This would work on your local area network. It's not going to work on a public IP address network. And then let's make it go over port, say 443, right? So it's going to look just like HTTPS traffic. And likely, if there's a firewall in place, right? If there's a firewall in place, it's going to allow traffic on port 443, right? It's going to do that because, you know, we have this standard HTTP, secure HTTP traffic. And then we need to go ahead and give it the R. And I've forgotten what the R stands for. It's, stands for, gosh, I can't remember. R is, well, we'll find out. We'll find out by going this way. Okay, here's, it's under, I think it's under, is for remote host? No, not in this case it isn't, Cunley. No. That wouldn't make any sense either because we don't need to know the remote host. It'd be our, it's actually the format, I believe, in this case. Let's go ahead and look at a list of formats. So we can find it on go MSF Venom, okay, -L list, okay, dash F for formats. Let's see. Dash for formats. I think it's just telling it to put it in a format for, these are, no, that's not it. Architecture, let's see that. Architecture to use. God, I'm escaping what the R is for. Usually in that position, it's the format. All right, let's go. List formats. Still doesn't list. Is it double L, double dash list? I think I finally got it this time. Okay. List formats. It's coming out with a list of formats. The other thing I want to point out, there we go. Here's the formats. It's not there. Let's try list the architectures. Nope. Arches is what it is. Arches. Here's all the architectures. Not there either. Let's go back to MSF Venom. Go dash help. Let's see. I'm just spacing out what the R is for. In any case, let's go ahead and create. Let's create our Android app with a backdoor in it. All right, so I've forgotten what the R is. So it's dash P Android interpreter. And we're going to use the reverse HTTPS. Okay. And then we're going to go L host. That's going to be our IP address. All right. This is a reverse payload, so it's going to call back to whatever IP address we put in here. And it's going to connect at whatever port we tell it. It doesn't have to be 443, right? But this way, if we're anticipating there's going to be a firewall there, we want it to connect back on a port that we expect to be open, right? So one of the things that you would do is to be able to test to see what ports are open on that firewall before you try. And you can probably expect that 80 and 443 are going to be open. There may be others as well, right? But you want to use a port that it's going to be able to call out on, okay? And of course, it'll be encrypted now as well. So it's going to be HTTPS over a port that is going to be open and encrypted. So if there's an IDS looking for that traffic, it's not going to be able to read it. And then the R, okay, and then it's going to be whatever name we're going to give it. Okay, so we're going to call it Android app APK. Hit enter. Now it's going to go ahead and generate and you can see it's grown in size quite a bit. All right, it started out it was only 71 bytes, and now it's gone ahead and increased in size that it's 10,000 bytes. All right, it says no platform was selected. Okay, Android. It goes ahead and selects Android because it sees that the payload is Android. No architecture was selected, so it goes ahead and selects the Dalvik. Remember the Dalvik virtual machine in Android. So it uses that as its architecture here in developing this. Okay. Now, of course, then now we've got, okay, let's go ahead and take a look. We've got our Android app right here. And then it's a matter of trying to get it to the machine. Now we might be able to, people have put such things in the Android, in the Google Play Store, right? We've heard that happens many, many times, right? Where these apps actually have some malicious content in it. So, but one of the things that we want to do, okay, beforehand, is to be able to re-encode that backdoor, okay, so that it doesn't get detected by antivirus or by Google, right? And Google doesn't do a very good job of actually stopping people from putting up bad malware. They do take it down when people complain about it or it's detected, but still you want to be able to bypass some AV. Now, there is, a lot of people don't have AV on their phones either, but we do have the capability, okay, of encoding this. Let's go ahead and generate it again, okay? And this time we can use, let's go ahead and use exactly the same 68, 101, and the L port of 443. And then we can go an encoder, all right? And then we've got a whole long list of encoders that we can use, all right? And the one that's used to be really good, it's not so good anymore, is Shikata Ganai, all right? So let's go ahead and I'll just go back one last time and so show you MSF Venom, okay? List encoders. There's a double L list. There we go. It's a double dash. And here's all the encoders that we can choose from. This would be, if we wanted to try to get it past so that Google doesn't detect it or antivirus. These used to work good as an antivirus detection scheme, not so much anymore. The antivirus folks have been able to pick up all these encoders now in Metasploit, but, okay, you can still encode, you still might want to encode with these so that if somebody finds the malware, they can't figure out what it's actually doing, right? And so we could go ahead and do that, or we could use other tools like OWASP ZSC to encode a payload and embed it, right? And that makes it, those are much, using OWASP ZSC, we have a better chance of getting past antivirus. You can see right here, Shikata Ganai, right? But it's only for x86, right? So we need an encoder for, do we have any encoders for, we don't. It's like we don't, we have some generic ones, okay? There's nothing that's going to work on Android. There's some PowerShell. This right here is the ICAR encoder, which is a standard, let's use that one, a standard antivirus encoder. Let's go ahead and try that. MSF Venom and -P and Android interpreter, reverse HTTPS, okay, and then L port or L host is 192.168.1.101, and then the L port going to be 443. And then we're going to use the encoder. In this case, we're going to use the ICAR encoder. And then uppercase R. And then we're going to make it the Android app, or whatever the name of the app is, and run it. All right. So I did it. The generic ICAR encoder worked. All right. The only thing is, it came up with a really, really small. Okay, we're going to have to do iterations on it. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's go. It did 0 iterations. That's why it ended up being so small. I'll go I. So how many times do you want to encode it? That's what iterations are. Let's go 100 times. Okay, takes a little bit longer. It's going to make it a little more difficult for anybody to decode it. There we go. Still didn't get very big. Okay, which kind of makes me question whether or not it actually did its work. Okay, I've got about 22 minutes after the hour. Let's still take our break and come back. Cunley says, isn't the R supposed to have a dash in front of it? Well, it may be, but it's not throwing an error message. It would, that's what's. I'll do some research on our break and find out what it's for. Okay, and it may be, you may be right. I don't know. I don't remember, and I'll do some research and we'll come back and figure out what that R is for. So. We're off until 37 minutes after the hour. We'll come back and do about another half hour, 45 minutes, and then we'll call it good for today. See you then. Okay, we'll resume class in about 2 minutes. Okay, everybody had adequate time to get some, use a bathroom, what have you. While we're on break, as promised, I did a little research, and the R stands for raw format. All right, so let's see if we can get the help screen. Help and formats. That's format. Okay, and help format. So it doesn't give me a help screen. It may be, let's try the help-F. They've changed these help screens on MSF Venom. And let's see, format. Let's try list -F. It still doesn't work. In any case, it's a raw format. So you're going to get your shell code in a raw format. That's what the -R stands for. The R stands for. All right. One of the things that, because this is an Android payload, we don't really have a good encoder to be able to obscure this or evade AV. So what we may want to do, okay, before we put it into our Android app, right, is to go ahead and encode it with something that's going to help it get past Google or any other AV. And one of the things one of them that I found to be really useful is OWASP ZSC. So we're going to go ahead and download that. And so it goes to HTTPS, and it's on GitHub again, github.com. And what we're trying to do here is to take the payload, okay, the malware essentially, because that's really what we're doing. We've got a standard APK, all right. We can take one that's already been developed or develop our own. And what we're trying to do is embed a backdoor that we can connect to on that Android device. But if it's going to get detected by the AV, then you're not going to have any success. So before we even embed it in the APK, we got to do a little work on it. So let's do that here. And here's a tool that's going to help us called the OWASP ZSC. Let's go ahead and download it. Yeah, it's pretty quick. All right. We should have a new directory now called OWASP ZSC. There it is. You see it right here. Let's go ahead and move into that directory and do a long listing on it. All right. And you can see that there's an installer there. So let's go ahead. The installer's right there. And we're going to, first of all, before we can use the installer, of course, we're going to have to give ourselves permission to use it. Change mod 755 installer py, and then run the installer. All right, it says now you can remove this folder. Okay, so we're in good shape now. Then all we got to do is to type ZSC. All right, and we end up with this screen like this here. We can go ahead and enter help to get a help screen. And here's what we have. Okay, so we can go ahead and just enter shellcode, generate, search, download, or we can go to the Shellstorm. There's actually a place called Shellstorm List, okay, where we can get shells there. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to shellcode. And then generate. All right. And then we got to tell it what the platform is going to be. All right. And unfortunately, in this case here, they only have, okay, this is not going to work really well for us because they're not going to use the ARM architecture to be able to create shellcode. Let's go look at the shellcode. Let's go, exactly, that's what it is, okay? It should be, it's raw format, okay? So let's go ahead and look and see if we can find a shellcode on the shell code. Let's go list. Let's go back. And let's go shell code, shell, also that, and then go shell storm list. Let's see if we can find a good shell to use against Android. All right, let's go through these. There's a bunch of Windows shells here, some Solaris shells, some OS X, NetBSD, some Linux. I thought there was some Android here. I'm pretty sure there are. Let's go through this list and see. Ah, there's some Linux ARM. Okay. FreeBSD. Well, I stand corrected. There aren't any Android shells here. That's a bummer. So forget what I said about creating a shell here that's going to be obscured. Okay, because there's not one in the available shells that they have. Right, but we have other tools that we can work with. So let's go ahead and exit from here. All right, and let's try using a different tool to create something that can evade AAV. Let's go and say use shelter. Just minute here. We'll go ahead and use Shelter to do the same thing. I think there are some, give me just a second here, okay? Let's see if it's still installed on our Linux system. No, it's not. All right. So we're going to have to go ahead and download it. It's in the repository, it looks like, though, so we can get it there. Apt install Shelter. All right. There we go. Okay. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to take that payload and obscure it before we put it into the APK. All right, let's go ahead. Restart services during package upgrades without asking. No. All right, so we're going ahead and installing Shelter. And there's a number of other tools that will do the same. Taking a little while to download it. Be patient with it. If you don't have this tool, it's a good idea to get it. Each one of these tools has its strengths and weaknesses in being able to obscure files from AV detection. Apt install Shelter is double L, Carlos. Okay. Okay, looks like we're ready to roll here. Let's go ahead and I think it just starts with Shelter. Too many L's. Now, one of the questions I have, I've never used Shelter to do a Android app, and I'm not sure I know it'll work with Windows. I'm not sure it'll work. We'll find out shortly whether it'll work with an Android. Okay. So, it looks like it's only going to work with Windows. So stop it. I'm going to go ahead and stop it. We might have a problem here with trying to obscure Veil Evasion also. Let's see if Veil Evasion will work with our Android application. Now, we may not have to obscure it. but it's always a good idea to try if we can. I'm going to close this to stop this. Go ahead and open another. Let's open a terminal. We got several of them open. Let's close that. Wow, notice it found another one, okay? So it found another device while we let it run in the background. Now it has 5 devices within range, which kind of shows you got to give it a time to run. I have no idea what that device is. There's our class. We could look up the class to find out what it is. But let's go and see if we can go to terminals, open another terminal, and let's go and get apt install. Let's try. Let's see. I'm not sure Veil Evasion will work with payloads for Android either. We'll find out. Do a little experimenting here in class. If not, we may need to send a raw Android app out there without encoding it, but it's probably a good idea if we can to go ahead and encode it. Carlos says, I was reading your post on OWASP ZSC. What was the last step you did on the post or what I did here? The last thing I did was to close the screen because it won't work. OWASP ZSC only will work in Windows and OS X formats, okay? I'm looking for here for a tool that we can use in Android. And maybe that none of these tools will work in Android. And that may be a problem that we're going to have to address, okay? I think Veil will work with almost all of the Metasploit payloads, okay? And so if it works with all the Metasploit payloads, we might be able to use it to obscure. All right, let's see. Carlos says, when you type shellcode, does it make the shellcode for you, or can you use your own shellcode? In which one? In OWASP ZSC? Is that what you're referring to? Yeah, you can generate your own shellcode. So it says generate, right? And then you're going to go ahead and generate your own shellcode. But it will not allow you to create an Android shellcode. And that's what we want here, is we're trying to generate something that it is a pretty good tool. It's actually I have 3 tutorials on obscuring the intent of the malware, so evading AV basically. And I think OWASP ZSC is best when you're working with Windows payloads and shellcode. I've used these others on Windows, and they used to be able to create payloads that were undetectable by AV. The AV folks have upped their game. I think that this one, the Veil Evasion, will work with the Android apps. We'll find out in a second here then. Once again, these are good tools to have in your toolbox. They're not built into Android, by Kali by default. So that's why we're going to take some time to go ahead and download them. but they're good tools that you should have installed. So if nothing else, you've got some good tools to use for evading AV. These three. The other one I would say, this one is veil evasion we're doing right now. The other one that's worth looking at is sharpshooter as well. Those four. I don't have a tutorial on sharpshooter, but I'll put one up shortly. So those four: veil evasion, OWASP ZSC, sharpshooter, and shelter. All right. Let's go. Let's veil evasion. So we can get. Did it create a? Let's go ahead and take a look here. I don't see. Did it actually go ahead and download it? I don't see it in my. Okay. Use the OWASP. It's not finding it when I try to run it. Nope, doesn't find it. Let's see if we can find out where it went. Should be able to just run it from the command veil evasion. But it's not finding it on my system. Where would it have put it at? Find. Let's go which evasion. Oops, gotta spell it right. Didn't find it. Okay. This is odd. Where is my veil evasion? It should just start from veil evasion. It evaded. Yeah, it evaded me. Where did it put it at? It evaded. It did a good job of evading. Let's try using the find command. Okay. Let's go find. Okay. Start with the root directory. Okay. And what we want to do is to look for a file. And look by name. And let's look for veil evasion. Unknown predicate F. It's actually. Like, there we go. Wow. Okay, what did I do wrong here? Let's stop this. Too many. I was looking for. Let's run this command again. Okay. All right, I see what I did wrong. It should be I used the option before F, and it should be before the name. That's what it should be, like that. All right. Yeah, that's what it should be. Permission denied. What's that? By using the F, you specify that it's looking for a file and not a directory, but we don't really need that. Permission denied. Find. Huh. Why is it giving me one? Let's just look for Veil. There we go. Should find all the instances of just that word Veil. We started as a root directory, so it's going to take a little while. There's doc under Veil. Now, it's possible that they may have changed the command. All right, so you find the libraries files, and it might just be Veil now. All right, let's go try just running Veil. That may be what it is. There it is. All right. They're calling it the Veil framework now. That's what happened. All right. All right. Change the name. Are you sure you wish to install Veil? Yes. All right. There we go. So they changed it to Veil framework. We still got some more dependencies we have to install here. One of the things that happens is over time, they sometimes not only name will change, but actually some of the commands will change as well. I'll leave that to your own speculation, okay, where those came from. Okay, a lot of people have asked me that question, Carlos, and I've never answered it. So we should have Veil here momentarily. Your GoToMeeting is acting weird. Well, we're almost done with class for today, so let's not get too worried about it. We may have to resume this section. It says it gave me an error. Timeout was reached. Well, I'll try to install this tonight, all right, and we'll see if we can work with it tomorrow. But in the meantime, what I want to do, okay, is earlier we had tried to do a scan for my all winner book, and it took too long, and we stopped it. So let's do that now, and we'll just let it run, and we should have our results. Yeah, you should get a pop-up on Python install. You should. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and run the scan and see if I can get all the devices on my network, and we'll go back to trying tomorrow to hacking my all winner Android device, and then we'll go and try some of the other Android attacks as well. But let's go ahead and let's go, first of all, let's find out what network I'm on, ifconfig. All right, so we're on here we go. That's maybe why it took so long. Let's go 192.168.13-0-24. That's the network we want to scan. All right, -ST and let her run. All right. If this thing is going to take a while, we'll just call class here. We'll have the, oh, there we go. That's why. We got the results now. Let's see if we can figure out which one's the all-winner book. All right. Okay, here's port 53 is open on 13.2. This is a VMware machine here. Here's this another VMware machine. And there's a VMware machine. And there's this one here with port 111 open on it. Let's go ahead and see. That may be the all-winner book. So let's go ahead and try it with that. Okay, show options. All right, let's see if we can go ahead and connect to that all-winner book through that back door. So we need to set the L host, right? You can see it right here, right? The L host. So let's go set the L host. And it's going to be 192.168.13. Gosh, what was it? 130. Okay. Well, let's see. At 130, that's 111 with TCP. I think that's the shared IP address with the physical machine, so that's not going to be it. Let me make sure that this all-winner is actually connected to the local network, and we'll try scanning again. If it's not connected to the Wi-Fi network, we're not going to see it. Okay, it is connected to the Wi-Fi network. This is likely, this one right here is likely the gateway. This one has port 53 open on it. Here's 254. Let's go ahead and see if that's it. Let's try 254. Yeah, that's not a valid IP address. 13.254. All right, let's go to show options again. Okay, then there's this session setting here. And let's go info. Let's set the session to 1. All right. And then let's go and try to exploit it if we have the right IP address. He's telling me that the following options fail to validate session. Exploit completed, but no session was created. It looks like that probably is not the all-winner book. That's my guess is what we're getting here. Let's try running that scan, the Nmap scan again, see if we can identify. All right, let's see if we can identify the all-winner book one more time. 13.0/24. And of course, this is what you would be doing in a real-world environment, right? I mean, you don't necessarily know what the IP address is of your target, right? You're going to have to scan to be able to find it. I've got to few IP addresses there to choose from. None of them look like it's going to be that book. Let's try another IP address. Let's try the 2 address. So we go show options, and let's change the L host. Set the L host to 192.168.13.2. Okay, and then let's try exporting that all winner book again. If that's it, it still says failed options, failed to validate session. That's probably not it either. So we've tried all the IP addresses. This is odd right here because this looks like the IP address of my machine, yet it shows that port, okay, 111 is open on it. That's very strange. Let's go and do an Nmap scan on it again. It's just by itself. See if why would port 111 be open on my system? 130. And that's the only port that's open. Huh. Let's try exploiting it. Nope. Okay. Yes, I closed that port, Carlos says. Okay. Well, that's good for today. What we're gonna do tomorrow is we'll try using some of these. There are other ways of being able to create a payload. We've created one payload. We've got that one. Let's go take a look at it that we can go ahead and put on a Android system. All right, so let's go here, and we've got right, we got this one right here. Although it's 68 bytes, you know, let's go rebuild this one. Let's use without work on trying to get it to evade AV tomorrow, but let's just rebuild it without. I gotta go back quite a ways. There we go. Okay. And what I would say is let's get rid of this. This isn't really doing anything for us. All right. So the encoders in MSF Venom no longer are able to detect to evade AV. So there's no point in using it. So let's go ahead and get rid of it. All right. And let's get rid of the iterations because the iterations are for the encoders. So now we have a relatively simple command. All right. It's going to be MSF Venom -p payload Android interpreter. We're using the reverse TCP payload because that one is going to be one. It's going to be encrypted as all HTTPS traffic is, and it can access a port that's probably open on that firewall. So it's telling it to call back to us. And I just used a random IP address. Let's change that and make it into the proper IP address, which is 13.130, which is my IP address here, right? And I'm having it call back to me on port 443, and then we're using a raw format and going to call it Android APK, Android App APK. And let's go ahead and hit enter. And looks like my system may have frozen here. Let's go and do a Control C, and let's do it again. All right, there we go. Okay, now it's working, and we should have a Android app APK with a embedded backdoor. And not only is it a backdoor, but it's a Meterpreter backdoor, which means that we have all the power of the Meterpreter. There we go. All right. So it goes ahead and says no platform and went ahead and chose Android for us. We could put that into the command, but it knows that because we're using an Android payload, that's probably going to be an Android platform. We didn't put anything in for the architecture, but once again, it's the Android payload, so it goes ahead and smart enough to know that it's going to go ahead and create the Dalvik architecture. There's no encoder or bad characters. We didn't put any of those in. And then we're outputting it in raw payload. That's what the R is right there. All right. We were talking about that earlier. Okay. Well, what does the R stand for? The R stands for raw payload. And we got a payload size of 10,401 bytes. And now if we go ls-r, we've got it right there. All right. Yeah, Carlos was able to solve Veil with a lot of wine installs Ruby. Yep, that's what happens. It's takes a lot to install it. So what we have right now is a raw output payload inside of an Android app. Right now, the task is to try to get it onto somebody else's Android machine, and then when it's executed, it'll give us a connection back to our system that we can control their system. The only thing that we still probably want to do is we want to be able to somehow obscure the payload inside there. In other words, we don't want the AV to be able to detect that there's something malicious inside of it. So that's what we're going to work on some more tomorrow. I'll show you some other tools that we can use to do that. And we'll try re-encoding this and putting it inside, as well as we'll try some of the other exploits against Android that are built into Kali, into Metasploit. Also, let's just quickly do a quick search and go search, okay, type exploit. All right, one thing we didn't talk about is iOS exploits. All right, so let's go platform. And there's not a whole lot in iOS, okay? There's 10 of them, okay? Not all of these are Apple's iOS. Some of the iOS is also a name that Cisco uses for their operating system, all right? So in this here, here's Apple iOS. That's what we want. There's only 3 exploits. But here's an exploit against Cydia, okay? Has the default SSH. You would got one right here. It's pretty. Here's one here is relatively new. Let's take a look at this one. Well, we got a couple minutes left in class. Let's look at this here. Apple iOS Browser WebKit. Okay. So this is just last year. So there's a good chance that you may be able to use it against Apple devices. All right, and then let's go info. All right, take a look at what it does. This module exploits a type confusion bug in the JavaScript proxy object in WebKit. Right? The DFG JIT does not take into account that through the use of a proxy, it's possible to run arbitrary JavaScript code during the execution of the create this operation. This makes it possible to change the structure and argument without causing a bailout, leading to a type confusion. All right, CVE 2018-4233. So you want to see more on it? Let's take a look at that. Okay, let's go up to the CVE database. If you can hold on a little bit longer, we'll take a look at that and see if we can find it in the CVE database. Get some more information on it. There it is. This is actually from the National Vulnerability Database. It says an issue was discovered in certain Apple products. iOS between 11.4 is affected. Safari 11.1.1 is affected before 11.1.1. iCloud before 7.5 on Windows is affected. iTunes, okay. So this issue involves the WebKit component. It allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code or cause a DOS attack through memory corruption and application craft via a crafted website, right? So that's the most current one we have in Metasploit. It's a year old, but if you were, once again, if you're charged with testing the mobile apps at the firm you're working for, certainly you want to check this one out against the Apple devices. Most of the others are relatively old on Apple. We got what, 2007 and some others. But of course, the Apple Bluetooth will also be, if it hasn't been patched, would also be a potential vector for attacking Apple products. All right. And with that, let's go ahead and call it good for today. And let's come back tomorrow at 3 p.m. UTC. And we'll do some more. We'll look at some more ways of attacking the various mobile products, primarily in this case, the Android platform. So thank you. Have a good night, and we'll see you bright and early. Well, it'll be bright and early for some of you. Well, all of you who are here. Mark is in Rwanda, so it's nighttime for him. He's probably already in bed. So good night, all. See you then.